Hey guys, today I have an update to my Hollow Palm Technique monk build. We have successfully taken the Hollow Palm Technique all the way from the beginning of the campaign into in-game maps. We've now killed a few Pinnacles such as King of the Mist, Zesht, and I made it through Sims until I glitched at wave 12 and it wouldn't let me progress anymore. The clear speed of maps is definitely comfortable for how cheap it is, so I can safely say that Hollow Palm is definitely not bait for the campaign, leveling, and early mapping, but starts to fall off towards Pinnacle bosses due to Quarterstaff stats and sockets being so important. I decided to go with the staff until I get my hands on the Thunderfist unique gloves, but at the moment there are 7 divs, so I'll have to wait. I've included a link to the written guide, path of building file, and my Twitch where I've been streaming this live, so make sure to check all of those out, and with that, let's get into the video. Alright, so here on the monk, and I'm going to go ahead and break down the skill gems, support gems, passive tree, and our gear that we're using. Now, if you're using Hollow Palm, don't worry, you can use all of this exact same stuff I'm about to show off here. It's what I use the entire time throughout the campaign, so just follow along and just make sure that you change your tree nodes that I show off. So, I am using Meditate. This is from the Ascendancy node, and this is going to allow us to heal our energy shield up to 1.5 times over the top. I'm using Second Wind as it is going to allow me to have 2 cooldowns of the skill and restore life whenever I'm using it. I'm using Steadfast 2 so that way I have more ailment and stun threshold, that way I don't get frozen or stunned whenever I'm using Meditate. I'm using cooldown recovery to increase the cooldown recovery rate so that way I get it back faster. Next up is Skeletal Warrior, and this is granted via a Rattling Scepter on my offhand. And on Skeletal Warrior, I just have Last Gasp, and the only point of having this is so that we can actually get power charges. Next up is Ice Strike, and if you are enjoying Stormwave or Tempest Flurry, feel free to use that. You can kind of slot whatever in here, but I'm using Ice Strike personally. I have Concentrated Area for more area damage. You can see it's a very big DPS increase. I have Rapid Attacks 2. Make sure you're using Rapid Attacks 2 and not 3, as 3 does take down your damage. I'm using Rage 3 to grant 5 rage on melee hits. Rage is going to grant 1% more attack damage per 1 rage, so that's 30 rage total. That equals 30% more damage. And then on Rage 3, you have supported skills have 15% more attack speed while you're not at maximum rage. This will allow you to attack faster until you're up to max rage. And then I'm running Pinpoint Critical to ensure that I have as high critical hit chance as possible. You can see I'm up to 66.49 right now, and it is pretty vital to ensuring that I'm critting as much as possible, which is nice because we are using Sunder My Enemies, the Ascendancy node, which I'll talk about later. Next up is Charge Staff, and I'm using this to support and buff our Ice Strike. Now on Charge Staff, I am using Prolonged Duration, as it is going to increase the duration of the buff. Perpetual Charge to give me a chance to not consume my power charges to help me kind of maintain them a little bit more often. Innervate, so that way whenever I kill a shocked enemy with this, it's going to give me 25% of damage as lightning damage, so a good damage buff. And then Blind 2, as it is going to blind enemies on hits, and this is going to decrease their chance of hitting us and increase our chance of hitting them, so nice for helping out our evasion rating. Next up is Shattering Palm, and this is vital for kind of comboing and getting the clear speed that you see me get. This is kind of what we have to be running right now on Monk. Now, Shattering Palm, whenever you strike a target, will coat them in these icy fragments. Whenever you deal enough damage to them, it will shatter them into an explosion, and this is doing massive clear for us. We're running Magnified Area 2 for increased area of effect. Ancestral Call 2, so that way it is ancestrally boosting. This is going to give us 30% more damage and 25% increased area of effect. This is what we want for that big giant explosion. And then Elemental Armament 2 for elemental damage. Cold Attunement for more cold damage. And now on to Flicker Strike. This is our single target Balsa right here. I am using Concentrated Area for more area damage. You can see that it's a very big increase. Inedible Crit for increased critical hit chance. This is ensuring that we are at 100% critical hit chance. Without this gem, we would not be there, so make sure you are using this gem. I then have Excise, so that way I have 40% more critical hit chance. You can see if we didn't have this, we also would not be able to critical hit at 100% chance. And then I'm using Overextend for more critical damage bonus for a very nice damage boost. Next up is Herald of Ice. Feel free to slot in Herald of Thunder if you want to. I have Overreach for more area of effect, Elemental Armament for more elemental attack damage, Cold Attunement for more cold damage, Elemental Focus for more elemental damage. I then have Wind Dancer on. This is to increase our evasion rating. I am using blind to that way whenever we get hit, it will go off and blind targets. I have pin and maim as well. This is going to make gale force kind of lock down anything that hits us. And then I have magnified area to increase the kind of AoE of this explosion from gale force. I then have ghost dance, which is vital for ensuring our ES stays up whenever we're mapping. We're going to run compressed duration 2 for less skill effect duration. This is because we want to gain ghost shrouds as fast as possible. You can see this decreases the time in between getting the shrouds, and that we're getting 870 ES every single time that we get hit while we have a ghost shroud. And then just left over, if you have the extra spirits, I'm running clarity and cannibalism. I then have sacrifice. This is required to use profane ritual on your minions to get power charges in boss fights, so make sure that you have this. This does not, unfortunately, you cannot, put it on weapon set 2 anymore. GGG changes this in 0.3, which is a kind of big nerf to us and our setup. So you have to make sure that you have enough spirit to make this work. And then I have profane ritual. This is what we're using to cast a spell on our minions to grant us power charges. I'm going to use Overabundance 2 for less skill effect duration. This will increase the kind of time that this will decrease the time that it takes to get us our charges. Same thing for compressed duration. This speeds up the effect of kind of doing the spell. I have rapid castings for a faster cast time. And then I'm running charge perfusion 2 for a chance to gain an additional charge whenever we are using the skill. So yeah, that is all of the support gems. So I'm going to go ahead and get into the gear. All right, so here we are on the gear, and I'm going to go ahead and break everything down. Now, if you're running Hollow Palm for the weapon, you, of course, won't have a Quarterstaff equipped. Now, the way that you increase your damage on Hollow Palm is by running either EV, ES, or EV, ES hybrid gear. The more EV you have, the more attack speed, the more ES, the more critical hit chance. Otherwise, you need to get flat damage on your rings and your gloves, and level of melee on your gloves and your amulet. So that is how you scale Hollow Palm. So now I'm going to break down the actual weapon. On your quarterstaffs, you're going to be looking for a lot of overall damage. Now, I do prefer to get Fizz and whatever matching element to my skill. So Fizz and Cold for me, since I'm using Ice Strike. If you're using Tempest Flurry or Stormwave, you might want Fizz and Lightning. But that is the best kind of matchup overall. It is nice if you can to get increased elemental damage with attacks. Otherwise, good notes are increased attack speed, critical hit chance, critical damage bonus, and level of melee skill. Now, please do be careful getting level of melee skill, as it will scale your mana consumption up a lot. But otherwise, I think attack speed and a ton of damage is going to be your best bet. And then otherwise, just sock it in whatever you can. Right now, I am using a Iron Rune here and a Glacial Rune, but kind of just do whatever you can to get damage. Now, for the gloves, I am going with EV ES pieces of gear to give me, if you are running Hollow Palm, this would give you a hybrid of more attack speed and more critical hit chance. You're going to want to go with as much flat damage as you possibly can get. The more flat damage, the more overall DPS. Same thing applies. If you can get Fizz and whatever matching element, the better. So Fizz and Cold will be better for me, but any will do, but try to match it up if you can. Otherwise, attack speed, level of melee skill, critical damage bonus, your resistances, your attributes, life, and then try to get leech on either one of your rings or on your gloves, and you want this to be leech fizz damage as mana, and it's because we're using the Walker of Wind nodes in the tree. I'll explain that in the skill tree section. On the body armor, I'm using a EV ES hybrid, and the body armor is really important because the higher the EV and ES on your body armor, the more spirit that we will get through Lead Me Through Grace. Now, on your body armor, you're going to want to prioritize, like I said, as much EV and ES as possible, but otherwise, going for life, your resistances, any attributes, anything like that is vital. You can see that I've gone for a lot of resistances on this body armor. Next up is the helmet, and if you are using Subterfuge Mask like I am, you're going to go with a pure ES helmet. Otherwise, go with whatever you can get. A EV or EV ES will work. Go for max life, critical hit chance, attributes, resistances, and anything else that you can kind of get on it. Next up is the boots, and on boots, of course, you're going to be wanting some movement speed. These are EV ES hybrid boots as well. I'm going for max life. You can also go max mana. Deflection rating is nice because deflection rating is a nice defensive mechanic that's been added. Pretty much deflection is a chance to pretty much whenever you take a hit to pretty much apply DR to you, damage reduction. So the more deflection rating you get, the better. I'll kind of break that down in just a second, but you're going to want to get life, mana, resistances, energy shield recharge rate, anything like that. For the belt, I do have a 20% of flash recovery applied instantly. This will let me apply 20% of my life or mana flask instantly. I do like to go for life, strength, mana, resistances, and then any cool abyss mods that you can get now. On the rings, you're going to want to go with as much flat damage as you possibly can. This is vital for, of course, DPS overall, but especially for Hollow Palm. Otherwise, make sure you fill out your resistances, your attributes, and if you can mix in some rarity, that is really nice here. And then for now, I'm using Pulse Circon, as Pulse Circon is great to synergize with Herald of Ice early on. This is a nice kind of clear speed increase. You don't have to run it if you don't want to, but I personally like it for the clear speed increases. It is going to allow you to shatter enemies as though frozen just by chilling them. This will allow you to proc Herald of Ice's effect way more often. And then I am using a amulet that has plus level of melee skill, some life, some critical hit chance, and increased evasion rating. Now you're gonna want to look out for increased maximum energy shield if you can. It's also nice to get crit damage bonus, attributes, resistances, life, percent increased life, anything like that that you can get. And I have anointed with sharpened claw as it is a cheap and easy one to do early on. Otherwise, just get whatever else you can get. If you kind of need to fill a gap in something, if you need more resistances, anoint some sort of node that has resistances. If you need some mana on kill, you can go for like siphon or something like that. If you want some life on kill, you can get it here. Just fill out whatever you need in this anoint slot. And then in my charms, I'm running a stun charm to help me from getting stun locked, a silver charm to help me from being slowed down, and a freeze charm to prevent me from being frozen. And then otherwise on the flash, just go for as much recovery as you can. If you can get recovery applied instantly, that's also nice, or gain charges per second for passive charge recovery in boss fights. And then on my second weapon set, I just have a Rattling Scepter. It does not matter what Rattling Scepter or what's really on it. If you can get level of minion, that'll make the level of your minions higher for more life on them. But otherwise, increased spirit, things like that don't matter here. All right, so that is the gear. So real quick, I want to break down the stat card and EV, ES, and deflection, explain that real quick. So in 0.3, they added a new thing called deflection, and they also reworked evasion. So evasion now functions like acrobatics. So you can dodge all hits with evasion now, but it's much harder to stack evasion. So pretty much like before, you couldn't dodge spells, you couldn't dodge big slam attacks. Now you can, but it's harder to stack evasion rating. What they've done to kind of supplement this is they added deflection, which is a chance to deflect, and if you do deflect, it will apply a 40% damage reduction to you. So by stacking deflect and evasion rating, you'll kind of like improve your defenses a pretty solid amount here. Otherwise, like I said, stack life, stack ES. I got block chance because my staff implicit, but yeah, otherwise for defense increases, you could get damage taken from mana before life, or like life recoup, things like that. But yeah, that is kind of the stat card and the defenses of the build. So now go ahead and break down the skill tree. All right, so here on the skill tree, and I'll go ahead and show you what differences there'll be between the Hollow Palm and the Quarterstaff version of the build. So if you're using Hollow Palm, of course, you're going to allocate Hollow Palm here, so make sure you get that. And if you are using Hollow Palm, don't use these Quarterstaff nodes. I have not confirmed if these work with Hollow Palm or not, but if you know these work, then you can use them. But if they don't work, of course, don't use them. Slot these somewhere else in some crit or some defense or something like that. But now I'll show you kind of the ascendancy and the path that I took as I leveled. So on the ascendancy, I decided with my first 2 points whenever I first did it, I went with I Am the Blizzard, and then I went for Unbound Avatar. As we've gotten in the end game, I have changed that. I've now gone for Sunder by Enemies, which will make our crit hits ignore monster elemental resistances. This is nice for us not having to build into elemental pin. I've gone with Lead Me Through Grace, which is this is how we are getting our spirit on our build. Lead Me Through Grace makes it so that you can get spirit from anything else besides your EV and ES rating on your body armor. And then I'm using Meditate for now, so that way I can sustain my ES in mapping. Whenever I get my next 2 points, I will probably go for I Am the Blizzard, but maybe there's room to try out the new elemental expression buffs, but for now I'm thinking I Am the Blizzard. As for leveling, what I've decided to go with here is stacking crits, power charges, and EV/deflect. So the important things to note is whenever you start out, if you're building in the crits, make sure you get these crit nodes off the beginning. I like to get the Mindful Awareness node here for EVES. I get Flow State for skill speed and Crashing Wave for increased damage if you dealt a crit recently. I come out this way and grab Moment of Truth for critical damage bonus and critical hit chance. I grab concussive attacks for attack damage in the small nodes beside it. Whenever I first go for Hall of Palm for like my beginning, I always pick these nodes right here. I come down here and I've grabbed these nodes for EV and ES rating. I get Lust for Power for +1 maximum charges and gaining additional charges. I go for Blinding Strikes for attack damage and blind. And I go for Subterfuge Mask, so that way we get +2 EV per 1 ES on our helmet. This is making us have 279 ES and roughly close to like over 500 evasion rating from the helmet. I then build out and I come over here to tenfold attacks for attack speed and strength, and I get Killer Instinct for attack damage. Here's my first jewel. I have critical hit chance, damage taken recoup his life, and then I have some pin, but that's not important due to sunder my enemies now. It needs to be updated here soon. I've gone for True Strike for critical hit chance and dex, for the Juggler for crit damage and int, and Deadly Force for crit damage and crit chance. I've taken this bottom node right here for critical hit chance, but eventually once I'm really capped out, I'll go for this node up here. I then come out this way and I get Spectral Ward for +1 ES per 12 EV on my body armor. This is just netting me a little bit more ES. And then I get Overflowing for +2 maximum power charges in the crit nodes before it. If you're on a Quarterstaff, make sure you pick these Quarterstaff nodes. I get the attack speed one here. This node is really nice for getting 25 dex and crit damage bonus. And then I get all of these crit nodes and one with a storm to count as consuming additional charge. I then come down here, and here's my next jewel. I have a 1% mana on kill and ES jewel. I then grab Walker of the Winds, which makes Mana Leech recover based on elemental damage rather than fizz. This is what is allowing us to kind of sustain our mana really well here. That's why I recommend having one line of Mana Leech on your gear, so that way your elemental damage is leeching and sustaining your mana at all times. I then come over here and get these crit nodes right here in this crit damage node. I then go for enhanced reflexes and I go this way for the deflection rating. I get bestial skin for the evasion rating from equipped body armor, and I'm currently grabbing the dex nodes because I need them at the moment. I come down this way and then I grab Coming Calamity for the increased damage while affected by Herald of Ice. So yeah, that is my skill tree. I will be updating this on my Twitch live as I mess around with this stuff. The Hollow Palm variant is pretty much the same. Like I said, take these nodes off, get Hollow Palm, and you could build either down here in this area, or maybe you build into the crit nodes here, the elemental nodes here, the ES nodes here, anything of your choice there. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and get into a gameplay demo, and yeah. Alright, so here on a map, and here is the highest tier Waystone that I currently have. And let's go and get right into it. Alright, so what you're going to be looking to do is you're going to be hitting enemies with your Shattering Palm, and then you're just going to smack them with your staff. So when you hit enemies with your Shattering Palm, it's going to apply those frost kind of shards on them, which is going to allow you to shatter those. Make sure you're using your Profane Ritual to get your charges. You can see, so I can pop my Charge Staff, I'll apply my Shattering Palm, and then I'll just kind of smack everything. This is going to allow you to clear well and do solid damage. There really isn't too much to the combo besides kind of pre-striking everything with the Shattering Palm and then leading into it with your Ice Strike or Storm Wave or Tempest Flurry. Like I said, make sure you maintain your charge staff buffs and everything. If you want to get charges to use Flicker, you can. There's nothing wrong with that. Flicker's pretty nice sometimes to use. And then, yeah, you have Meditate, which you can see I can pop this to kind of supercharge my ES recovery rates. This is what I'm doing if I need to, if I'm, like, in a dangerous situation. But that's kind of really all that it is to it. If you come across, like, some bosses or something that... in the map, like at the end of the map, or like a ruined monolith, you could just kind of whip out your minions and get charges from there. But yeah, that is kind of the loop for the mapping and everything like that. Nothing too crazy to it, like I said. So I'll go ahead and get into a bossing demo and kind of show off what I'm doing there. Alright, so here we are on my media player, so that way I can pause it and break down everything that I'm doing for you guys. So whenever you're in a boss fight, you're going to use your minions to get your power charges. You can see that I'm doing that here. I've kind of pulled them out. I'm getting my power charges. I'm going to have my flicker ready and my charge staff popped. I'm just going to walk up to the boss and I'm going to start hitting him to generate rage. Once I have close to 30 rage, it's preferable to have 30 rage before you flicker. They get the most damage. Once you're ready, you're good to flicker strike. So I'm going to flicker strike here and do a good bit of damage. And then now that I've done that, I'm just kind of like getting them down below that last bit of HP threshold. And kind of same thing, once you kind of get back in the arena, Same thing, get your charges, build up your rage, and then just hit him with a flicker strike. And yeah, and that's the same thing that I do there. I go and get some more charges. I flicker strike him, and he's dead. So yeah, that is kind of the bossing loop and everything. So nothing too complicated to it. You get your charges, you get your rage, you flicker strike. If you have a unset ring, you could get Infernal Cry for extra damage. But yeah, that is the setup for now for bossing. So yeah. But that is going to be it for the monk guide for right now. I am proactively updating this as I play this on Twitch. I am planning on still trying to play Hall of Palm. I just need to get my hands on Thunder Fist, but they cost 7 div right now, and I don't have that type of money. So I'm waiting until then to switch back. The Quarterstaff just scales better for now, so yeah. But that is going to be for the video. If you guys made it this far, I really appreciate you guys. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Give me some tips, some tricks. We need to get that tier 4 one-shot down here soon. So kind of let me know what your thoughts are, what we can kind of mix in here. And yeah, I hope to catch you guys in the next one. You guys take care.